So Andrew may or may not stick around. It depends on how much fun we can have with him and convince him to stay. But otherwise, he may jet early, which is okay. I guess he's
No
allowed
peer
to have a
pressure.
life. Yeah, he can do other things. It's fine. It doesn't hurt me, at all, except when it does. You know, that's cool. I mean, I'll live. But I figured we'll kick off really quick with the latest episode of Alien Earth, which we talked about far too long last week. So we definitely will not talk that long about it this week. This is a single episode, and we've sort of covered all the back history of Alien, so we're good on that too. But what'd you think of this week's episode?
Man, I would call it a bridge episode. I think it's setting up a lot of things. The first thing I want to say really quick though is I figured out um, why I'm kind of drawn a bit to the cyborg guy, and I knew it was going to remind me of him. But there is an actor named Yaphet Kotto, and he was the main villain in Live and Let Die for James Bond, and he was also in the first Alien. Now, I think he was like a West African actor. And I feel like the cyborg guy is not your typical Hollywood looking actor, but he's just in the role and he's not like a side character, he's a main character. And I just like the fact that they cast this dude and he absolutely, even the way he's dressed, reminds me of Yaphet Kotto from the original Alien 1979. So I just want to get that out of the way. As far as the plot of the show itself, I think it's highly intriguing that there is a synth who is experiencing jealousy and is absolutely trying to jockey for the favorite position
hmm
by
hmm
ugly what's his name? I'll call him
Boy,
Boy, yeah, but I'm trying to remember the fucking actor's name. But anyway, but yeah, Boy Genius, Boy Kaleidoscope, whatever his name is from Prodigy. But like, I think that's interesting. That could get weird. And the fact is, like, and he was even saying, I want to be able to have a conversation with somebody who's like smarter than me or whatever. And she's actually like, I learned French and I can surpass you. Like, she's doing all the things to basically get him like nice and lubricated, if you know what I mean. I'm being terrible tonight. But anyway, he's excited about that. Um, I think that they're absolutely deepening the lore. The idea of cutting open like the little egg inseminator thing, and then there's like a little alien, and now he's like going into the lungs. Like, what the hell? They cut the lungs out of the brother? What the fuck? I mean, if I'm reading that correctly,
yeah.
why is it that Wendy is like telepathically linked to the aliens? WTF? Now, like, I want her to die, but I don't want her to die, so I'm conflicted. And then last but not least, like I'll just kind of say it like, hey, the Indian guy, like the Indian man-child thing, is like that's cool that there's some sort of telepathic electronic link between the cyborg and him. So basically, that's what I
hmm
mean by a bridge episode. There are a lot of things being set up, and the Oliphant character, I also
Love
like
him.
as he's like, I think he's just realizing some shit, and I think I love that part too. So, boom, that's what I thought. I love it.
Well, it's funny to see the one girl that wants to be the favorite, kind of has that. It's not quite, I talked about it last week, but like it seems like there's always a synthetic person, right? That
Mm.
loves a human being a little more than, they probably should. They did it in actually they did it in the beginning of this. There was the Asian synth that was watching them while they slept, and it was the teenage girl. He was super creepy about that. And then you have, of course, um, in the original Alien films, um, they were just a little weird with Sigourney Weaver's character. So yeah, it definitely is
Pattern.
a weird thing. Yeah, that they're doing a good job keeping up. Remind me, where did this episode end? Like, what was the last thing they did?
The last thing they did, I think, literally was, yeah, when the alien went into the lung in the vial,
Oh, that's right, that's right.
she like kind of fell and passed out on the ground after like being and great acting, by the way. Like she got
hmm
a tendon in her neck to like pulsate before she fell, and I'm like, how do you tendate? Like what?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then they
that was
finished on a Metallica song, which
right.
like was it Wherever I May Roam?
Yes, it was, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, and I was like, I was like, that's a needle drop. Like it, they're definitely hitting a tone on this show. And it seems the more that they go through this, like they're ending every episode with a metal song. I forget what the
What's the
first two were, but they were
what's the significance of that? Because I mean, I didn't know the first two metal songs, but yes, but
one of
you
them
might,
was definitely older.
yeah.
I thought the second one was like Def Leppard or something, but I could be wrong. Um, but it was just I think I actually read about it because I was like, why? Like I was trying to figure out why because I was trying to see if there was significance in the lyrics of wherever I may roam to either what was happening or what was coming.
Hmm.
But I think it was just the director. He was this is the kind of music that he was listening to when he was working on it,
Okay.
and kind of went with that. And it, I mean, it hits the mood right. Like it is definitely like the right mood music for the scene. Um, but yeah, it's really good. I think that I finally figured it out. The girl, she reminds me of the girl from Freaks and Geeks and Scooby Doo and all
Oh,
those Hawkeye's wife and
yeah, yeah, yeah. I know. What's her name?
but it still blows me away that she's Kyle Chandler's daughter because she doesn't look like Kyle Chandler to me at all. So she must look like her mom.
Yeah,
Um, but uh, but she's doing a
Cardellini.
great job. What's it?
Linda Cardellini.
Yeah, Linda Cardellini. But she's doing a fantastic job. Like she feels still like young, but not quite as young and childish as the others.
Correct.
Like she's definitely the more mature of them, and I actually like the fact that the other one of the other girl characters is also more mature. Like it makes sense because like emotionally speaking, women females are more
Age
mature
first.
earlier than boys are. So, um, it makes a little sense there. It's also interesting to see if, and they talked about it, I think, in the first episode, how, when you talk about emotion, when you talk about the things that they used to have as human beings, a lot of that is generated by hormones and brain chemicals and things like that, which they don't have anymore. So, like their reactions to things now that they've been put into a robot body, like how much of that is personality and stuck in their head because of, reason X and not because they got, you know, a hit of dopamine or something like that, which they, can't have anymore. So it's certainly interesting in that regard too. I love the fact that they've sort of established that when they're working on the egg, when they're working on the parasite, when they're working on the xenomorphs, anything like that, as long as they have, synthetic people in there working, they're fine. Like it doesn't trigger the same sensitivity that it does in in people. And they kept boy, what's his bucket out of the room and had to
Hmm.
convince him. But I think Timothy Oliphant's doing an awesome job too. He's just I love the guy because he really does kind of everything. He's been the the Western guy. He's done cowboy movies. Um,
Hitman.
uh, Justified, he's fantastic in. And then you go watch the Santa Clarita Diet on Netflix with him and Drew Barrymore, where she's a zombie and they're married, and he's got to feed her. And I mean, it's silly, like it's so funny. Like he can do both, and he's just really talented. And this character feels different than any character I've seen him do, which I always appreciate.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, like you said, this episode sets up a whole lot of stuff. Like it seems like they've got a couple of pieces to work with on the xenomorph side because they have the body that she killed, right? So they've got that whole body to work with. They've got the facehugger, the parasite that they put in the dude's lung. You've got her connection, whatever that is. You've got the dude from Wayland Utani that's over here fucking with stuff. Like it's going to be really interesting. I don't know. I think there's only 8 episodes this season. I'd have to look and make sure how many are planned.
Yeah.
And they're talking about a season two. So whatever they do, this isn't going to end in one season most likely because I think this is doing really well.
Yeah.
And so I don't see any reason that it won't get a second season. I don't know if it was written to kind of have a soft ending at season one. I sort of hope that it is, just in
Eight
case.
episodes. Correct.
Yeah.
Uh, Yeah. I hope, yeah, yeah, if they're smart, they will absolutely leave a door open for season two.
Yeah, yeah. I know they have plans for it. I think it's just one. I think it's one of those shows though because the lore is so well established and they're putting themselves in the middle of the timeline. I feel like you have to know where you have to stop. Like you
Hmm.
can't go too far.
Yeah, like Andor.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because other than talking about Earth in the first Alien film, I guess I mean no, they come back to Earth in Aliens, right? She's on a space station right outside, so and that's 57 years later. So Earth can't be wiped out. They don't have any xenomorphs on Earth at that point because they were bringing her back and the other one back. So whatever happens here has to stay really contained to probably the Prodigy Island,
Yeah.
right? And not be able to get out of there. So whatever they do, if they're going to, I mean, obviously they're to keep it on Earth. That's the name of the show. So it'll be interesting to see how they move things along without completely, um,
Too much.
wrecking the lore. And I know that the director and writer basically, said he's ignoring the first two films at least. They're not worried too much about playing with canon. But at the same time, I talked about it last week that the first two films, while they are definitely in the same universe and they definitely explain a lot of things, they aren't origin stories for anything that is happening now.
Right.
The closest you have is that Wayland left and he was out there and he passed away. Now we've seen Yutani in this, so we know who she is. She's definitely a badass broad. Like she's tough. So there's definitely interesting stuff to set up, and I'll be curious too to see if later this season and into the next couple of seasons how much they tie in the other corporations because there's still three corporations we don't know about.
And that's exactly, I think, the kind of thing that they should bring in. It's like Game of Thrones and the houses.
Yeah,
So, ugly Timothy Chalamet.
yeah,
My brain worked. That's who he is.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, I'm excited for the next one. I didn't pay attention to how this did on IMDb, so I'm not sure. But again, I'm just seeing good reviews on it all over the place, so I'm feeling good about it going forward. It seems like it's going to last a while. So
Amen.
yeah.
All right. Well, in that case, I will leave you guys to it, and I'll be back and bright and bold and boisterous in a week.
And
All right, man.
bushy-tailed.
Get
All
some
right.
rest. And then there were two.
Yep.
All right, so you got a couple of things. The one I'm certainly the most curious about is caught stealing. You saw that? You got an early preview of that?
Preview to this evening. I went with a friend. Yeah, it was good. So it stars Austin Butler, and have you seen the previews,
Yes.
Kevin?
Hmm.
Okay, so you have a rough idea of what it's about.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a perfect example of wrong place at the wrong time. Austin Butler plays this figure, I don't know, t late 20, early 30 something bartender who's living in the Lower East Side of Manhattan in the late 1990s when, crime isn't always like, it's not the
Hmm.
best at this time in lower half of Manhattan. And he is seeing, not in like a established relationship, but he's seeing Zoe Kravitz, his character, and he works at a bar. And then one day his neighbor who has like this crazy like mohawk situation and is British is like, I gotta go to England, take my cat and watch him, etc. And at one point he needs something for the cat and leaves the apartment, and there are two or three Russian guys, I think two Russian guys that are from the mob that are trying to sniff out and get stuff out of this British guy's apartment. And Austin Butler steps out at the wrong time and gets the crap beat out of him to the point where they, I think, have to remove a kidney or they do something. He had serious damage to one of his kidneys and he ends up in the hospital. Zoe Kravitz is there, her character, and he's like in a really rough position because he's like, why are they after my neighbor? I don't understand what the situation is. And his character, Hank, is you get to learn he's got a bit of a drinking problem, has some trauma. He was playing baseball throughout high school and had a dream of making it to the MLB. And he is from California. He's a big San Francisco Giants fan. And you come to find out that well, I actually don't want to spoil it because I don't know if you're planning to see it.
I definitely will see it. I don't know when. I'm not going to see it in the theater.
Okay.
Um,
So I'll hold back a little bit, but long story short, he's got his own trauma and stuff that he's working for, has a bit of a drinking problem. I don't want to go through everything, but there are some gangs involved, two gangs in particular, these Russian mobsters, and then two Hasidic men. And you get to see how things unfold and how he encounters Hank, who's played by Austin Butler, interacts with both of them and has to essentially fight for his freedom and for the ones that he loves because due to him being in the wrong place at the wrong time, he's now a serious threat to both of them, both of these gangs. And I thought it was well done. There were definitely some parts where I was like, is what's going to happen here? He's beat up pretty hard. Is he gonna end up living, not living? Like, are they gonna hunt him down? What's going on? And some of it's a little bit unbelievable just how injured this guy is, and he's still just running and being chased by both of these gangs, and he has a lot of insight to things based on this neighbor of his that he comes to find has some very dark secrets and is hiding some things and he's got this cat throughout the movie which is hysterical because it's not a very friendly cat, it's a cat that bites, but he is so close to this cat and really just determined to protect this cat. And in a good portion of the movie also Zoe Kravitz as well because this is the girl he's seeing and such. But yeah, I'm not going to spoil it, but it is very good. It's all pretty much in New York City, and it parallels like his own trauma that he's going through and trying to get out of this complete debacle that he has to deal with between two gangs and one of them being like the Russian mafia and the other one being just two Hasidic Jewish men that are fighting for they're all after like a lot of money essentially, and they have to figure out since this British guy holds all the money, who happens to be Austin Butler's neighbor, he unfortunately, if he had not stepped out of his apartment to try to get food for this cat, he would have never been in this situation. So it's like, it's really shitty. But yeah, he unfortunately has to be chased and avoid a lot of people get shot in this movie. There's definitely a lot of like scenes if you're queasy, I don't recommend seeing it because you see blood and things. Yeah, it's not the lightest of movies, but there's definitely some very funny parts, which you probably saw in the trailer where he's got a yarmulke on Austin Butler and he's sitting with the two Hasidic men and he's having matzo ball soup in their home or one of
mhm.
their homes. And it's like a short break from all the madness of them, being caught between gun violence and chasing cars and all these crazy things. So, yeah, it's based on a book too,
Oh, is
directed
it?
by,
Okay.
yeah, directed by Darren Aronofsky. So, yeah, but it's got a pretty good cast. We've got Zoe Kravitz, who plays Yvonne, who's his love interest. You've got Bad Bunny, who's like part of one of the gangs, Regina King. I'm trying to think who else. Oh, yeah, Liev Schreiber as well. So,
Yeah,
a
and
nice mix.
Vincent D'Onofrio, they play the Hasidic guys, the two guys in that scene.
Yeah.
Um, does the character Dale show up a lot? He's a Native American kid. The actor's name is DeFaro. I forget his last name.
That's the guy from his childhood.
Okay, yeah, he's one of the main characters, or is arguably the main character in Reservation Dogs, which is great. Um, but yeah, Darren Aronofsky is. It's interesting to me that this is his film because have you ever seen Snatch
No,
with Brad Pitt and Jason Statham and
I have not.
um, well, let me ask you this: was this movie as frenetic as the trailer made it seem? Because the trailer made it seem pretty wild and crazy.
It definitely does get very crazy once you encounter the mobsters. Should we call them mobsters? Yeah, I mean, Austin Butler's character, Hank, he's troubled, but he's not like into any of this. He doesn't get involved with drugs or gangs or anything like that. He's just a bartender who has a bit of a drinking problem, and you come to find why from his past and stuff, but nothing compared to what he gets pulled into.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say if you like this, you should give Snatch a shot. It's very similar
Okay.
from the trailer. Now, what the actual movie is, I'm not sure. But it
Hmm.
trips me out that this is Aronofsky because he did Requiem for a Dream, he did Pi, The Wrestler, Black Swan, The
He's done a lot of
Whale.
stuff. The
Yeah,
Whale, which
he's
I
been
was
around, but his
fantastic.
stuff is generally really dark, and this at
Yeah.
least seems like from the trailers that it is maybe not lighter necessarily, but I mean, does this because the trailer makes it seem sort of action comedy-ish.
Yeah, there's definitely some scenes where you're laughing, but I mean, people die. That's not funny. It's not like a Naked Gun where it's like
Yeah, right.
a
Yeah.
funny action type of thing. This isn't funny. So, but it definitely creates an inside look of what the lower Manhattan. I was explaining to my friend too. I said, this reminds me a little bit of Rent, just like the grunginess of
Hmm.
lower Manhattan in the 90s and how it looks, especially like Lower East Side. Yeah, there are definitely some parts you don't want to go to past a certain time. Even like now, I mean, I live in Upper Manhattan, but I try not to go below probably like 14th Street Union Square by myself after a certain time. Certainly not when it's dark out, but more so now, I think it's not as dangerous as it once was. But the 90s in general, like, yeah, you didn't want to go out at certain hours, especially as a woman. But even I think for men, it would be very dangerous too.
Yeah. How is the soundtrack in this?
I honestly wasn't really thinking about that.
Okay.
Maybe.
Yeah, I'm
I
just
feel like that's
curious,
something
like,
Andrew would definitely pick up on.
yeah, I just feel like if it's set in the 90s, I'm hoping that it's got a fun very 90s based soundtrack. But yeah, I haven't heard much about it. So it could very well be all instrumental and not do that. It's just fun to have some needle drops in a movie that takes place in a time where I think maybe it's just for me, but like that's the music I kind of grew up on, right? Because I was in high school in the 90s,
Yep.
starting college in the 90s. So there's a lot of stuff there for sure.
Hmm.
Um, so I don't know. It would be fun to see what's in there.
Hmm.
I'm trying to see if I can find it. Rabbit Run is in there. Um,
Supposed to take
yeah,
place in 98.
yeah, that would be pretty solid. Um, that doesn't look like it's the same thing. Maybe it is. Let's see. Nope, don't even work. Don't worry about it. Uh, I can't
I'm
tell if this
looking on
is.
Spotify to see what it shows.
Yeah, it
That's a good
looks
point
like
though. I didn't even think
mostly
about it.
looks like mostly original music. So they may not have a lot of needle drops in this one. That's okay. Like it'll be interesting to see how that works out. I'm definitely curious about that, knowing that it was set in the 90s. Like I definitely knew it had that grungy kind of look to it. I didn't really
Yeah.
ever pay attention or think about when it took place.
Hmm.
So Yeah, that'll want to be a fun one to watch. So I'm excited for that. I think it's in the theaters like officially this weekend, or is it next weekend that it?
Correct. Next weekend, I just was able to come across a theater that's not too far from me, more of a private, smaller. It's not an AMC or like a Regal Cinemas, but more of a, I don't want to say even mom and pop, but smaller scale for New York City. And I think they have like two or three theaters. But yeah, I've been to the theater maybe two or three times before. And yeah, I saw it was doing this preview. And I'm just shocked not every seat was taken. There were quite a few seats open. I wonder if it's just because it's still, summertime and people are going to the beach and traveling and such. But
Yeah, I was thinking about it. I don't know that I've seen too many trailers out in the wild for this. I've seen it in the trailers section for other movies. So like going to the theater and seeing other movies, I've
yeah,
definitely seen the trailer for this, but I don't recall seeing an actual commercial for it, which makes me
mm,
wonder if they're not doing a great job marketing it. Um, and that would be unfortunate to see it not do well because there hasn't been enough
yeah.
advertising.
Yeah, I
Um,
think it's good. I don't think it was the best like action-packed movie. It was definitely hard to watch at certain points with, as I mentioned, the wounds that are given to Austin Butler's character specifically. But yeah, I thought it was solid. It kept my attention from start to finish, that's for sure. And just seeing what happens to Austin Butler's character, Hank. And I mean, there's definitely more killings that I would have thought based on the previews, but yeah, it was solid and I'm curious like when the book was written too. I'm assuming maybe that was a 90s book.
I would assume so. Yeah, I don't
Caught
know.
Stealing, a novel by Henry Thompson. Oh, sorry, author by Charlie Houston or
Okay.
Huston.
Yeah, Charlie Houston wrote it, the movie
Originally
too.
published 2004.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. If it's the late 90s. Just because we are somehow magically for once, maybe ever on the show, beating Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb to the punch. What would you give it out of 10?
A great question. I was thinking about this too. What's going to happen next week? I feel like the viewers are going to probably like it more than the critics, personally, and that's what I'm thinking more due to like the action pack portion of it. And I know a lot of viewers would be like, "Oh, I love the, you know, integration and how he encounters the mafia." But what I'm actually gonna give it like a 60%. It was good, but I don't think it was great. High 60s, low 70s. I'm curious what critics are gonna give it. Because there wasn't anything that I was like, wow, this is a real gem of a film.
Yeah, it'll be interesting too because we've talked about this before. Now thinking about it, it's based on a book, right? So if the critics are familiar with the original source material, how are they going to weigh that against the film?
Right,
Um, and definitely seeing there's only a few reviews on Rotten Tomatoes right now.
right.
One person gave it a 5 out of 5. They love the action, the humor, the music. One person compared it to Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, which is basically the Guy Ritchie film that he did before Snatch, and they're very similar. Um, so that makes sense to me. That's what I see in the trailer. I see something like Snatch or Lock, Stock. Um, so I definitely feel that. But the reviews, there's one bad one, which is dislike the clogged toilet and the vomiting in the window, both in the audience's face. So you will know what that means more than I will.
Yeah,
Um,
there's some like gross scenes. I
yeah,
think it definitely paints New York in, not the best fashion, but I feel like that was very 90s, right?
right,
That's what
right.
New York is
That was
in
before
some regard.
Giuliani did his whole
They
cleanup
mentioned
of New York.
Giuliani. They mentioned Giuliani, so he might have just started at that point
Yeah,
because I know he
yeah.
was mayor during 9/11.
Yeah,
But
he was mayor
yeah,
during 9/11, but yeah, he was um before losing his mind, he really did a lot for New York City and specifically like the Times Square area and stuff like that. Before he took over, there was I mean, even Square was a scary place. There was prostitution all over the place, and
Yep.
it was really bad. So I can see how setting it in that time, you have a little more freedom to make New York that much grittier because it was kind of in a bad place at the time.
I
So,
just Googled it. He was mayor from January 94 until December 2001.
oh, so he finished up 9/11 and was like, peace, I'm out.
Yeah, but I mean,
Um,
like, I think when you think of Mayor Giuliani and his, you know, run as mayor, you always think of 9/11
oh,
and
for sure,
how
for sure.
well respected he was at that time. Like, there was nothing bad that I heard about Giuliani in
Yeah, at that
2001.
time, for sure,
No, he
for
was
sure.
like the city's mayor. Everyone was super proud to call him the mayor. He cleaned up New York and really, that was a time where I feel like there was so much love and unity in this country. I don't want to get too political, but you understand that's very
Yeah,
different than it is now.
yeah,
But yeah, they did like mention him, and I didn't realize he's been the mayor since 94. It was just not a great neighborhood and wasn't necessarily like showcasing too many homeless. Like there's one homeless guy that they showcase, but he's like just sleeping outside, like very harmless and such. But yeah, I think just the mobs and Austin Butler being caught in between it all.
yeah.
So yeah, I'm curious what people will say. I definitely like didn't fall asleep at all. It kept my attention. I don't think I loved it. I was hoping for more, I guess, out of it than I did, but it's just showing this guy who's struggling a lot, who has a bad past and hasn't really fully accepted his past or taken even really just some accountability, and then gets put through even more of a situation that he can ever have fathomed. So yeah, I think it was good. Probably not my like go-to type of movie. Not that I don't appreciate action and stuff. I do from time to time, but could this have happened? Sure, why not? I mean, there are gangs in
Yeah.
a lot of cities and across the country. There's one scene in particular that I thought was pretty crazy. So that year, and I am a baseball fan, I'm a New York Mets fan, but they have to meet up. Him and I'm not gonna like give too much here, but him, Austin Butler, the British guy who's kind of like the cause of all this, and then one of the gangs meets up with them in Flushing, where the Mets play, and at that time they had Shea Stadium, and they're walking up the stairs from the 7 train at like Mets Willets that's the subway station that
Hmm.
stops right in front of the stadium there for which was is now City Field now at
Yeah.
the time was Shea. And right across they had I guess the World's Fair or something like that. So they have that big globe if you're familiar with that. There's also like Arthur Ashe Stadium where the US
U.S.
the
Open.
US Opens played and stuff. So it's like a really um, busy area with a lot to do and a lot going on. So he has to meet the one of the gangs there to potentially swap out and give something for some to receive something else. And they start chasing one another. Stuff goes wrong, and they almost like they're pretty much chasing like and having to go around the globe. And then both of their situations, without again going into too much details, they both end up wrecking the car, so they have to run. And they're running through Mets fans and stuff. And it's funny because at this time, figure it's end of summer, early fall at this point. And Austin Butler's character is a huge Giants fan. And in order to like get rid of one of the gangs, he's like, there are Giants fans over here. And then you just see, which is so unlike Mets fans, just start piling up and like pushing the two mobsters away just so Hank just Austin Butler's character and the British guy with the mohawk are able to get on the 7 train to like escape and and run off and get away from those two gang members. and just how like the Mets fans like pounce on the two people once they were like they're in the wrong area. They're Giants fans and they're like, ah, and they start like pushing them down. It's very, I thought that was pretty funny, given that he's an actual Giants fan, but he's like, this will hold us off and give us sort of like more of a few steps ahead where we're able to have more of a way to escape and they're able to hop on that seven train and then have at least more of a lead, shall I say.
Yeah.
So yeah. But yeah, I would probably give it like high 60s, low 70s. It was good. I'm curious, we'll find out next weekend what the critics and audience give it, but I have a feeling that the audience is going to give it a higher rating than the critics. Could be wrong though.
Yeah, I think it's got an interesting sort of pedigree behind it because it is Aronofsky. It is definitely different for him, and like I said, just from the trailers again, I haven't seen the movie, but I feel like it's going to draw a lot of comparisons to
Snatch. Oh,
early, what's his name? But Lock, Stock, and Snatch for sure. So, all right, cool. Well, since we're talking about new stuff that wasn't terrible, I will talk about the show behind me. It's a film that dropped on Hulu this week, didn't go to theaters. Um, and it's called Eenie Meanie, like Eenie Meanie Miny Mo. Um, and it stars Samara Weaving, and for the most part, a bunch of people that I don't really recognize. Um, Funny enough, I'll talk about another film a little later on. Um, both of these films have Randall Park in them. Both of them involve cars, but two very, very different films. I think this film was really interesting because if you go and watch the trailer, it's got sort of a Gone in 60 Seconds slash, Baby Driver kind of vibe to it. Uh, but it weirdly feels like two different films. When you start watching it, it starts off really frenetic and over the top and almost silly, and it feels like you're gonna have something that is more fun, like I said, like a Gone in 60 Seconds or a Baby Driver, something like that. This girl is she it opens up. She's late for work. She works at a bank. The bank gets robbed. And she seems to have a familiarity with the workings of a bank, like beyond what you would know just from working there, right? And we come later to find out that she has a history of robbing banks and being a getaway driver, and she's like kind of this legendary getaway driver that doesn't do that anymore. Like she's trying to get and stay clean. Her boyfriend is played, or ex-boyfriend is played by a guy named Carl Glausman. Um, I feel like I may have seen him somewhere before, but I don't really know. But she realizes that she is pregnant, and it can only be his. And they've broken up, and he's a mess. And so she goes to tell him, and while she's trying to find him, we come to find out that he has gotten into some trouble with an old kind of mob leader that she used to work with. And so to ultimately to pay off the debt to this mobster played by Andy Garcia, she has to drive for this heist they're going to pull. And so all the way up until this point, you definitely have like the whole heist caper vibe, like any movie, Gone in 60 Seconds, Ocean's 11, all that stuff. Like they plan out the heist, all this stuff, and it feels lighter and it feels um, just like I said, like those films, but it also feels a little corny. Like it doesn't feel like anything special. So it's kind of like waffling back and forth between being interested or not. Um, and I was watching the whole thing, but I like wasn't into it. And then all of a sudden, in the last like I'd say like 40% of the film, it goes super heavy and it gets really emotional. Really like we talked about before in the other shows, like really bad decisions here start to pile up and things get just really kind of dark and you get into this girl's story and it's really emotional And the ending is nowhere near as fun as the beginning, but the last 40% is definitely a better movie than the first like 60%. So it's really bizarre in how they did it. I think Samara Weaving is fantastic. Sometimes her accent kind of breaks through because she's supposed to be from, I don't know, maybe, I don't think Boston, but she's from, I don't know, the Northeast somewhere. Um, but yeah, her accent comes through a few times, which I definitely noticed. But otherwise, she does a really good job, both with the humor of it, with the action, and then later on in the film with the drama of it. She's definitely the main character. She eats up the screen when she's there. She's doing everything right, and it's just sort of a mediocre movie. Like if I look it up in Rotten Tomatoes, it's a 41% from the critics and a 59% from the audience. So on both of those, it's not really, necessarily resonating with people. And I can see why. Like I said, for me, it feels like a film that didn't quite know what it was and made a decision late on to go become something else that was better. It's a 6.1 on IMDb, which I think is probably the more fair rating. By the end, I didn't hate it. I think it ended where it had to end for the story to work. And like the last scene, while a little cliched based on, things that happen and being a little predictable, I think still works. Um, but it is a weirdly made film that is definitely two different things. And I think if this had gone to the theater, it probably would have bombed. So to see it like it's just even though it draws comparisons to A Baby Driver or to Gone in 60 Seconds, it's not as good as those films. Um, but there are definitely moments in it that are really good, and some of the humor is really good. Some of the early stuff that's funny is not bad. There's a scene where they are taking something back from one of the other getaway drivers, played by Marshawn Lynch, and his girlfriend is this she's an Asian lady. She's hilarious, but she takes her Tesla and she goes to try and run over Samara Weaving's character. So she floors it. She's running right at her. But the gag is that Teslas have impact prevention. So the car itself stops before it hits her, even though she's trying to gun it on the gas pedal. So she can't even run her over because the car won't let her. And then so she like backs away slowly, kind of thing. And it's, like I said, it's funny. Like it has its definite humor moments, and it's very much a heist scene. But there's some stuff that's just kind of throwaway. Like she's got this relationship with her dad that they show in the beginning, where her dad taught her to be a getaway driver. She gets in some trouble early on in the film, and because she is involved in a crime, she gets taken away from her parents and ends up in the foster system. Well, we come back to her father much later in the film, and they have this meeting where she kind of asks him to be a driver for what they're doing, and then he says, "Oh well, I can't. This it's not the life I'm in anymore," and kind of blows her off, even though she just came to him after like 18 years or something. And you get this feeling that like he's going to come back and like save the day at the end or something like, and then they just never come back to him again. It was sort of a wasted scene to a degree. I think it sort of matters for her character growth. So it's not a complete waste, but it's a weird scene to throw in because it really feels like he's going to become more important later, and then he never does. And so it's certainly interesting in that regard too. But just a movie I think with some better decision making and maybe a little more editing or something could have been a little more than it was. I'm trying to see if the director has done anything else. His name is Sean Simmons. Um, he did The Continental, which is the movie, or he wrote The Continental. He's primarily a writer, I guess, hasn't directed anything. So I think I clicked on the wrong thing here. Hang on. Am I a liar? What did the director do? Well, it says he directed this, but then it didn't show up in his IMDb page. But he's mostly a writer, and he wrote The Continental, which is in the John Wick universe. He wrote for the School of Rock TV series. but really hasn't done a lot, and I think that kind of shows. He's probably got some growing to do as a creator, but it's not the worst foundation. So if you've got time to kill and you want to watch, just be prepared for, like I said, two very different halves of a film, basically. It's more fun, but less, quality in the beginning, and then a lot less fun, but a better film at the end. So you make it through that, you'll be okay. It's not particularly long. It's only an hour and 46 minutes long. Funny enough, almost the exact same length as Caught Stealing, which was an hour and 47 minutes. And it's free. It's on Hulu. So if you've got Hulu already and you've got nothing else to watch, I'd say give it a shot. If nothing else, for her performance, she really does a good job. But if you miss it, I don't think you'll be entirely disappointed either.
And this just came out.
Yes, came out on the 22nd, so this
Okay.
Thursday or Friday or whatever it was.
Okay, so it's brand spanking new.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I said, the bummer is that I think if this had come out in theaters, it would have bombed. So hopefully it gets for this writer's career, I hope that it does okay getting some views, because I definitely see potential here for this guy. It just needs more. So all right, well, we can move on from that. I don't know. It's up to you. Do you want to talk about the movie, or do you want to talk about the Gilded Age?
Let's save the Gilded Age for the end
All
because
right, that's a good
we'll
idea. We
end with
can
something just
something better than
fabulous.
at least where I'm about to go. Okay,
Okay.
so talk about you watched Oh Hi in the theaters.
I saw
Yeah.
that, gosh, like 2 weeks ago, but I thought it was very funny. It's about this girl who's played by Molly Gordon, who I've seen. I think she's also in The Bear, right? Molly Gordon.
Yeah, she plays his on again, off again girlfriend
Okay,
Thanks. Peace.
later.
where I was able to
Okay.
recognize her. But she plays Iris, and Iris goes away somewhere, figure like upstate New York with Isaac, her love interest. They've been seeing each other for a couple of months, and she's under the impression that they're exclusive, they're boyfriend, girlfriend, and they go to this cabin and it's beautiful. They get to cook together, they go into the lake, they have sex, and then as they're in this, and figure it's of an Airbnb type of situation, they find handcuffs in the closet of this Airbnb cabin. Well, it's not, it's like it's an actual house. It's beautiful, but it's in the woods in this mountainous area by lakes. And he's like, "Oh, we could use these." And then that evening, they want to start, you know, going through foreplay and having sex. And at first, he puts the handcuffs on her. And she's like, "Yeah, I don't really like this, but I kind of want to put them on you." He's like, "Go for it." So she puts it on him. They have sex. And then she goes to the bathroom, comes back, and she starts cuddling up to him. And she's like, "I'm glad this is our first trip as a couple." And he's like, "What do you mean?" And mind you, he's still in the handcuffs. And she says, "You know, like we're a couple now. This is our thing." And he's like, I'm not trying to be a couple. Like we're hooking up and having a great time, but I'm not really looking for a relationship right now." And she freaks the fuck out. She's like, "Excuse me? You told me we were going to be exclusive. Like, we're not using protection now." He's like, "Yeah, so and then she asks, like, "Are you seeing other people?" He's like, "Yeah, I mean, like, I am, but like, I'm just being exclusive, like, not using protection with you." And she just freaks out and is like, "Well, I'm just going to have you think about that," and leaves the room while he's still handcuffed, has a total meltdown, leaves, and it's hysterical, but it's also at first I'm like, is this like going to be a Gerald's game
Yeah.
situation, but opposite, right? But instead, he's just in the bed, handcuffed, and she just has a complete meltdown, starts pulling up her phone, goes through different, I guess, videos and rabbit holes online of like how could I convince someone who doesn't want to be exclusive with me to be exclusive with me? And then she calls her mom and she's like, yeah, we got into a disagreement, Isaac and I. And she's like, some guys just don't know what they want. She's like, exactly. So I'm just gonna show him what he wants. So sh he ends up falling asleep in the handcuffs. And the next morning, she's an absolute mess, makeup smeared everywhere, just an absolute mess from all of the crying she's done. She's like, you know what? I don't think you know what's best for you. So I'm going to have you not only think about this, but we're going to spend 12 hours together. And I'm just going to show you why I'm someone that you want to be with. And during this time, at first, he's like, get me the F out of these handcuffs. And then he's like, you know what? Like, she's crazy. I think I should just cooperate. So she ends up like cooking him breakfast and it's hysterical dancing and he's just like going along with it because he's like I need to get out of these handcuffs so I'm just going to appease her at this point. And then two of her friends show up and he's like all right, time's up. And as she's like about to get at the hand get him out of the handcuffs again, he's insults her again to the point where it's like, dude, just shut the fuck up and get out of the handcuffs. And said, he's like, yeah, I don't think we're going to be together. Like, I think we're done after this because this is holding me hostage. This is against the law. Like, what you're doing right now is against my will. And I'm going to call the cops on you. She's like, well, if that's the case, then I'm just leaving these handcuffs on. So she leaves them on. Two of her friend, like her girlfriend comes up and her girlfriend and the girlfriend's boyfriend comes up and they're like, what's going on? She's like, it's a serious situation. Isaac's, really upset with me, but they didn't realize like to the extent. And he's now in the handcuffs, and both her friends see that he's in the handcuffs. They're like, what should we do? And they're like, I don't know, but we should probably just wait it out. And then Isaac notices that her friends are there and they're still not getting him out. He's like, I'm going to get all three of you arrested for what you're doing. And it ends up being like at least 24, 48 hours, maybe like closer to 72 hours that he's in these handcuffs. And it's hysterical at this point because they're like, oh, are we going to go to jail? What's going to happen? And clearly at this point, he is past like ever seeing a future with her, especially after she's holding him. I mean, she is sort of holding him hostage. So she's like, maybe I can make him fall in love with me? Is there like some sort of spell? Like they start thinking like, should we go into witchcraft? Should we do something crazy? So instead of being like, all right, most girls would be like, all right, I got fucked over, tricked by this guy, was totally breadcrumbed, fuck him, bye. Like this girl's like, no, I'm gonna make him want to be with me, and it's hysterical. So very funny. All the girls that went with me to this, well, it was me and two other girls, but we were cracking up at this film.
Do you think it's something that is more for the female audience than the male audience?
100%. I think it would scare the shit out of a lot of guys being like, yo, are there people like this? Because if so, hell no. But also, it's very just knowing today's modern dating culture, it's a thing.
Yeah.
Men telling women that, yeah, I'm interested, I'm more serious, I'm open to be exclusive. And then women taking their word for at face value and then finding out there was no intention of being in an exclusive relationship in the first place. So, but she just takes it to the next level and goes completely berserk and is like, you know what? I'm gonna make you change your mind. Where I think most women would be like, heartbroken, and then they're like, all right, moving on to the next guy, fuck this guy. And she's like, nope, almost the opposite. So yeah, I think most single men, if they were to see this, they'd be like freaked out, actually.
Yeah,
But it's still very funny.
yeah, it definitely looks like a comedy. I think I like her a lot in The Bear. I think that might be the only thing I've seen her in so far.
Yeah.
Molly Gordon, but she's credited as one of the writers on this too, which is interesting.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a cool thing to see, her go through. I'm trying to think. Oh, I did see Theater Camp. She was in that.
She's very
Um,
talented, super funny.
yeah, and she's got
Even,
a few writing credits.
yeah, no, I thought this was good. And the girl who plays her friend, Max, Geraldine,
Yep, she's in the
just want
Thunderbolts.
she's in, okay, yeah, I know she's in a couple of things. I first saw her in the movie Blockers where she
Hmm.
plays John Cena's daughter, and that was pretty hysterical, where her and two of her high school friends like all want to lose their virginity on their prom night, which is so funny. And the parents are like, not on our watch, no
Yeah.
way. And they try to get to the kids before they do their business and stuff. It's very funny. But yeah, she's great. She's actually Australian,
Yeah. Yeah. I
Geraldine.
saw that.
So,
Um,
but yeah,
yeah.
she's been in some good stuff.
Yeah. She's certainly on the rise. Thunderbolt, she was great in. I think that was a good, like, wider audience kind of film for her to be in.
Hmm.
To get a little FaceTime. She was in, I guess, this last season of Poker Face, which I still haven't watched. That show is fantastic. On Peacock. Drive Away Dolls was talked about a lot, but it actually looks like it didn't rate very well. So I don't know what happened there. But she's been around for a bit now, and I think her career is heading in the right direction. Number one, she's talented, she's funny, she's very pretty. That doesn't hurt. And Molly Gordon's doing well for herself.
Oh
Logan
yeah.
Lerman, I've heard of the main guy. I'm less familiar with him, but I know I've seen him in some stuff.
He was
Um,
in that movie and I never saw it, but Perks of Being a Wallflower.
oh, he was on Hunters. That show is great. I think that's on Prime. Did you hear about that one?
Is that the new one that just came out?
No, it ended in 2023. I think they only did two seasons.
Oh,
It's about I think he is the main character. I think he's the one that gets pulled in. And it's basically he's Jewish, and this takes place in the 70s, and he finds himself in a gang of um, Nazi hunters, and that's why it's called Hunters.
mm,
And it stars Al Pacino, a
oh wow,
handful of the other people, Lena Olin, but they're all definitely like older people. They're people that were um, in the internment camps and in the thing, in the worst of the places during World War II, and now they're out um, hunting Nazis. It's an action. Calling it a comedy is probably stretching it a bit, but
sure.
it's really good. It is actually really good. Definitely a little violent. I would say it's probably tone wise, not necessarily feel wise, but tone wise is probably very similar to Caught Stealing, actually. Well,
Mm,
you'll have your humor, but it definitely has its darker moments and its bigger issues. But really good over on Prime. Worth a watch for sure. It got two seasons. Um, and it's certainly sort of a alternate universe kind of thing where it definitely deals with real events of World War II and all that, but the things that are happening in it are definitely things that did not happen in real life.
sure.
But that one's good too. But yeah, Logan Lerman, he is another one that I think um he was really good in Hunters. So he's been in a few things here and there. Fury. He was the original Percy Jackson, cinematic Percy Jackson,
Hmm.
back in 2013. Perks of Being a Wallflower was a big deal. So he's a guy that I feel like he just needs to do more movies to become a bigger deal. Like he's doing a good amount. Um, but
Right.
yeah, I think he could be on the rise if he just does a little bit more. He's in the next season of Only Murders in the Building, apparently,
Oh, cool.
which is a lot of fun. And he's young. I mean, he's relatively young. He's 33, so he's got a
He's
little
around
ways
my
to go.
age.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
They all are actually. I think I saw Molly Gordon's 31, Geraldine Viswanathan is 30, so they're all right around that age.
Yeah.
But cool. All right, yeah, that one looks like
I think you got a
entertaining.
kick at it because I know you're not someone who would be like, oh, freaked out, but also, yeah. I think like a young single guy at 20s or 30s would be like, yeah, women are crazy, etc.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see being a little freaked out.
I have
Um,
girlfriends that I'm like, I'm a little like, they're definitely the type who would do something, maybe not to that extent, but they'd be like, haha, like,
yeah,
definitely,
make a few bad choices, anyways.
yeah, like that. Whereas I'd be more like, fuck it, next guy. Like, this guy's a jerk next, whereas I think some girls are like really out for revenge. And it's funny because I mean, he's the one who did take her to this, and without a doubt, he leads her on, no questions. And then completely gaslights her when she's like, "What do you mean?" And he's like, "I never said boyfriend, girlfriend." And it's definitely the type of talk track that you'll hear a lot of men say when, they will completely, and I'm sure you've heard the term breadcrumb, right? Just breadcrumb women to thinking and giving them so much love and attention immediately and then being like, I don't want a relationship. So, yeah.
Yeah. All right, cool. Well, then I will move on. I will move on to a film that I feel like this is like a dark Lifetime film. Like, so
Mm.
it stars Vanessa Kirby. It's called Night Always Comes. It's based on a best-selling novel. It's only on Netflix. Came out on the 15th. I actually watched it before last week, but didn't talk about it. Um, and the gist of this movie um, is that this woman, and from reading about it and from a couple of the trailers, felt like it was going to have a little more action to it. And I'll just say right out of the gate, this movie is depressing as balls. Like it is just like not a happy movie. Um, and I think I feel like it missed the mark overall, but I'll get to that. So Vanessa Kirby does an amazing job, kind of like Samara Weaving in the other one. Um, Definitely carries this film all on her shoulders, and she is fantastic. But she is, I don't remember where it's located, but she needs $25,000 to put a payment down on her house so she can keep it. It was her mom's house. She grew up in this house. Her brother, excuse me, her brother has Down syndrome. And so she wants to take care of her brother. Her mom is a mess. And so she's doing everything she can to get this money together. She's supposed to meet with the bank with her mom. Her mom doesn't show up at all. And so the bank is like, yeah, we're gonna foreclose on your house. We're gonna take your house. And she talks them into giving them an extra day. And in that time, she goes home, finds her mom, who just spent $25,000 on a brand new car. Instead of having it to put into the house that like they talked about, she's like, no, I'm gonna put it into this car. And so she flips out. She's got less than 24 hours now to figure out how to get this money for a down payment so she can save this house to take care of her brother. And from there, it's just a series of depressing events that she chooses to do to try to get this money. We find out that not only is she down on her luck, she's basically always been down on her luck. She is she is a prostitute some of the time. That's where Randall Park comes in. She meets Randall Park, who is a regular of hers. She tries to convince him to give her the money to invest in the house, basically, right? To say, oh, it's an investment, right? If you put $25,000 in, it's a long-term investment because it's real estate. And he's like, no, he's like, my wife would question that. So of course he's got a wife while he's sleeping with this prostitute. Well, she ultimately steals his car, goes to a friend's house, who was living kind of the prostitute life. It was almost like a Pretty Woman thing, where this friend is now staying with this guy that's super rich. The friend has to run out. She's left behind kind of on her own, finds a safe in this guy's house, steals the safe, bumps into a friend of hers who is, a less than savory fellow, and they take the safe to a dark neighborhood where they crack the safe open, but the guy that helps them crack the safe open is really bad. Inside the safe is not money. There's uh, bricks of cocaine. So she takes that. She's got to try and sell that. Again, all of this is within a night. This is all takes place over the course of a single night. She takes that and she's got to find somebody to sell that to. She ultimately comes across a dude that she knew when she was young, and it turns out he used to prostitute her out at like 14, 15, 16. And like, I mean, it's just, she gets home, she gets the money. Like, I'm just going to spoil it because I don't think this is a movie that, I don't know who this movie appeals to. Like, it's just, it's so depressing. She gets home with the money. She's got 25 grand, and her mom is like, "Yeah, I'm still not going to show up." She's like, yeah, I grew up in this house, and or I grew, you guys grew up in this house, but it has holds too many bad memories for me." And so like the whole movie happened because the mom was never honest with the daughter. But she also knows everything the daughter's been through, but is horribly unsympathetic. Um, and like, it's just it's a weird, weird film. Um, she just ends up in bad places. She gets the crap kicked out of her. Um, and the interesting thing about it is like, it's never, the one thing I guess it does well is it's never unrealistic. Like it is like realistically dark. Like the things that happen to her just are not good. Um, her mom is played by Jennifer Jason Leigh, who does a great job being that like just bad mom. Like she's not quite like addict level kind of like junkie like, but she's kind of got that same attitude. She doesn't care seemingly about her daughter who is carrying a ton of trauma. So like the whole movie is about, yes, she's doing this thing to get $25,000, but it's all about, as we watch it, we're going through her trauma and her past and finding out kind of who she is and why she's this way. Um, but it's just, I mean, it is just dark and sad. And this movie's a bestseller. The book is a bestseller. Um, and I'm not super clear on why or what the story was. I can see how it might have been better as a book, but yeah, it's just too depressing to watch. Like she is amazing, and every review that you'll see is like this movie was on her shoulders. And she is another, like we were just talking, she's another person that's like on the rise, right? She's in the Fantastic Four. She was in The Crown. I think she was the one that played um, Princess Diana, I think, in The Crown. Um, you know, she's been in a lot of stuff recently, and her career is going great, but this movie just is just too heavy, and the action that there is isn't enough to make it more enjoyable, right? So it's just like, funny enough, talking about Darren Aronofsky, like it's not as depressing as Requiem for a Dream, which is a movie that I think people should watch once and never again. But it's a great movie. This movie lacks whatever made that movie great, even though it has just a great lead performance. Um, and so, yeah, it's a bummer to see something come out and kind of be this poor when when everything else is doing well for her. But yeah, I really can't recommend it. And like I said, if I was going to recommend it, I don't know who I would recommend it to. Um, because it's just, it's sad. Like her life sucks, and there's no, I don't know, they
Yeah.
try to give you kind of a positive-ish ending after
Hmm.
everything goes like to complete shit at the end, but it's just not. Like it just ends with her driving off into the sunset, and you're just like, like what is this woman supposed to do?
Where does it
Um,
take place, Kevin?
I'm not sure. It felt like, I feel like now everything to me feels like New England because that's where I live, but it
Okay.
definitely felt like rural Massachusetts or something,
Okay.
or suburban Massachusetts. Sorry, not rural, um, but close enough to whatever city it was in that they definitely drive through the city also.
Right.
Um, but yeah, it's just too heavy. And funny enough, it's an hour and 48 minutes. So apparently everything we're watching this week is an hour and 45-ish minutes.
Right.
Um,
On the shorter side.
but yeah, another one that I feel like there's a story there, and it's not necessarily a bad story. They just needed something that they missed something somewhere to make this a really good movie. And
Hmm.
just like Eenie Meanie, it wasn't the acting. Both of these women carried their movies like on their shoulders and did a fantastic job. Um, and so if you look at it as a showcase of talent for Vanessa Kirby, great.
Hmm.
But otherwise, it's just too damn dark. Um, and like I said, not enough of a positive outcome for me to feel good about it. I mean, it definitely kind of ends where this woman's life would end, as far or her story would end living the life that she lives.
Right.
But yeah, I feel like you don't. Maybe you do want that when you gotta go to see a movie. Like, not every movie is supposed to be happy endings and rainbows, but
Right. Totally.
yeah, it's definitely a series of bad decisions in the film, plus
Hmm.
just a woman whose life has been garbage like her whole life. She was, molested, sold into prostitution, lived in the foster system, tried to help raise her brother, um, who has Down syndrome. Like, she's never had it easy. So yeah, it's a tough one for sure. But
Yeah.
so that is that one. If I was picking music too, I would 100% recommend Eenie Meanie over this. I think that is a more entertaining film. This one
Hmm.
definitely probably has more to say,
Right.
um, but Eenie Meanie is the more entertaining of the two. So we can move on from that and start to perk ourselves up a little bit here before the end. You watched and got hooked on and finished The Gilded Age.
All in a week. It About a week. Yeah, a week. A week? Let's go with a week. About a week. Kevin, this is the most visually stunning show I think I've seen in many, many years. It takes place in the 1880s in New York, majority of it. 3 seasons. I went back to my parents a little over a week ago, almost 2 weeks ago, actually. Yeah, almost 2 weeks ago after some plumbing issues, and it was the season finale for season three of The Gilded Age, and this show has brought my mother so much joy. And I have been saying for months, maybe even close to a year, I have to watch this, knowing how much she loves it so much. And I ended up watching the season finale with her, and she, in between, since it was live on HBO, my parents have all the HBO channels. She was speaking to me about the different characters and such, and they really introduce you to quite a lot of characters, which is why I think Andrew might actually like it, and definitely recommend it to Sloane. And even you, Kevin, I think you would enjoy this series. It centers around two families that live on East 61st Street in the late 1880s. It's a story of old money versus new money, so it talks about wealth, class divide, race is a big theme here. And the two families you have in the older home, like traditional brownstone, the Van Ryn family, where you have Agnes Van Ryn, who's played by Christine Baranski, and she's like a cranky woman who's on her high horse, who is more of a traditionalist, doesn't want to break those traditions. And then her younger sister, Ada, who is played by Cynthia Nixon, who's very kind and thoughtful and just definitely not as assertive of a personality in terms of just how she presents herself, and more less dominant. And then at the first episode of season one, their brother passes away, and they have a niece who's played by Louisa Jacobson, who is the youngest daughter of Meryl Streep, and she plays Marion. And she comes the first episode of season one to live with her two aunts after her father's passing. She has no more than $30 to her name, and she leaves from Pennsylvania and takes a train up. While she is taking or about to get on the train, she ends up getting her purse and ticket stolen, and this black woman by the name of Peggy Scott, who's played by Danae, what is her name?
Like
She's
Benton.
yeah, Benton, absolutely fabulous. She ends up helping her out and says to her, "Yeah, I'll take care of the ticket. You can pay me back when you get there." And she's like, "Oh, my aunts have the money, don't you worry." And there's a beautiful friendship that ends up blooming on their end. And Peggy ends up living and working for the Van Ryn family as a secretary for Agnes Van Ryn, played by Christine Baranski. So that starts, they have the servants and the kitchen staff that you get to meet that all are pretty much at the bottom of the house that serve them. So I guess we'll call them like the staff and the help. They have their own storylines too. And that's the Van Ryn side. And across the street, episode one, you see this big mansion being built, which is the rise of new money, and that is the Russell family. And it includes Bertha, who is really trying to set the scene and become the next big deal in society, and that's played by Carrie Coon. And then opposite her is her husband, George Russell, who's played by Morgan Spector. And then they have two children. The son is Larry Russell, and the daughter is Gladys Russell. So they moved to New York. I guess they're originally from, she's from Albany, she says, like later in like one of the seasons, but both of them are self-made. They did not come from money. He gets into the railroad business and makes a ton of money, so much so that he has more money than like all these old money people in many cases put together. So they are all new money. They have the glam, this beautiful estate on the opposite side of East 61st Street. And then you get to meet their staff and the help. Each of them have like, well, Bertha has a changing maid that like helps her with her wardrobe, and Agnes Van Ryn across the street has her own maid. Each have a cook. They each have a butler, a footman, just different people that work in the house, and it's beautifully just crafted. They also showcase from Peggy's side of things. Peggy is the black woman who comes to live with the Van Ryns as a secretary. She opens up the storyline to her family, and they live in Brooklyn, and then you get to meet some characters in her world, and they're more of like the black elite, like black upper class at that time, or at least upper middle class, and her mother's played by Audra McDonald, and just what life is like for people that are either, well, you come to find that Peggy's father was a slave from the South, so he's now a free man, and then how Black society operates in New York City during this time, during the Gilded Age, and how many of them are really just building their own place in the world with specializing in more advanced career paths since earlier in that century, where many of them were slaves or just weren't as well established, and how these individuals are really spreading their wings and are creating independence and making some things of themselves at that time. The really great thing is how they incorporate history too. Season one, they incorporate Clara Barden, and they have these characters showcase some of these historical events. I think it's end of season one, early season two, they have Thomas Edison and the creation of electricity. They have some real major figures woven into this. And apparently the Russell family is somewhat of a loose portrayal of the Vanderbilts
Hmm.
and how they were able to enter the scene of high society. And they showcase Newport, Rhode Island, and that was where it was at the time very popular to have like a summer home and cottage, even though like home base was New York City. So it is a fantastic series. They talk about love matches and how they incorporate all of these other like love stories and how some things work out, some things don't work out. There's death, there's a little bit of a lot of drama, even between the women in society. In their society, like if you're divorced, you're X'd out of society, you're an embarrassment, etc. Whereas men, you can remarry. So just the inequality between men and women, how women were really boosting their reputation in society. Initially, this is more in like season one, it's a very they all the women like try to in high society that have money get involved in these nonprofits and charities, but also they enrich their life and really are patrons of the arts. So they attend the opera, and initially like the head person is Mrs. Astor, who's played by Donna Murphy, but over time, Bertha, throughout 3 seasons, Bertha Russell, who's like up and coming, is like, I'm gonna overtake this. And even though she has enough money to purchase a booth at the opera, she is told like, no, there's like a waiting list. You have to wait. And at a certain point, she's like, well, I'm gonna make it my own opera, the Metropolitan Opera. And she tries to sway some of the other women to go here. And so it's sort of like conflict between the old and new money and how the old money people look down on the new money people. You didn't come from money, etc. So it's fascinating. Definitely remind me a little bit of The Great Gatsby in that sense, where they had that distinction between old money, new money, and just the costumes, Kevin, and the set design is gorgeous. The storyline is gorgeous. They really put a lot of effort into the history they have. One of the directors is a Black woman, so they made sure that the story was told from Black society as accurately as possible. Peggy Scott, who lives with them, she's not only secretary, but she also is a writer, and she has to go through things too. And they talk about just some of the trials and tribulations as a Black woman in her society that she has to go through at that time as well, trying to get published and how she's not being seen through, you know, a very not, I shouldn't say serious, but she's told initially, like in season one, she wants to get her stories published. They didn't realize that she was Black, so they say she's going to have to remain anonymous. Well, I don't want to be remained anonymous, so she ends up finding a Black publisher who's able to showcase her stories and her articles, and she's really able to explore that way. And they talk about different social movements like temperance and suffrage, and they cover so much of history during this, especially the all 3 seasons. They have balls and tea and fancy dinners. It's something to smile about. They have really brought to life this show, and it just got renewed for a fourth season. So excited to see where this goes. This is created by Julian Fellows, who is responsible for Downton Abbey.
Yeah, I was gonna say this like just in all the descriptions, this sounds like American Downton Abbey, and in a way,
Correct.
it's like it's sort of like the American Downton Abbey prequel. Like this takes place in the 80s. I think
Yep.
Downton Abbey kicks off in 1912 with the sinking of the Titanic. Like that happens in the
Something like
first
that.
episode of Downton Abbey. Um, but yeah, it the Julian Fellows has a lane. He's like the British Tyler Sheridan, I guess, creating his own little mini universe. Like Tyler Sheridan did Yellowstone in 1923 and all those. And these sound like their own little universe, but it's got a great cast. I love Carrie Coon.
Such a great cast, Kevin.
Taissa Farmiga, I'm a big fan of. I love Christine Baranski. She's always fun. But
She's
one
so fun in this show.
looking at this, there's a name that caught my eye, and nobody I think has probably ever heard of this guy. He plays a character called Monsieur Baudin or Baudin. Sounds French. The actor's name is Douglas Sills.
Oh, the chef.
Maybe. Um, but he was in a musical in the late 90s, mid to late 90s called The Scarlet Pimpernel, based on the book The Scarlet Pimpernel.
Oh, okay.
He is a ton of fun in that. That soundtrack is great. It's a musical that I think came in hot for a minute and then faded away. It
Mm-hmm.
was a Frank Wildhorn musical. He did Jekyll and Hyde was probably his most popular musical,
Mm-hmm.
but he did some other ones. But Douglas Sills kind of came out of nowhere. He didn't really have a big like he wasn't a name, so for him to be the main character in a Broadway show on the original soundtrack, like he was the guy. for this, and I've always loved him since then and wondered what happened to him. And he did some other stuff. To see his name in here is kind of cool, for sure.
Hmm.
But like, yeah, really does have a really good cast. Um, and I have heard nothing but amazing things about it. 8.1 on IMDb. I forget on Rotten Tomatoes, but I'm pretty sure it's insanely high.
So I checked that for all of the episodes. The lowest rated episode is a 7.8 in all three seasons, the highest being a 9.0.
Oh wow.
Kevin, it's fantastic. I highly recommend that. I recommend Andrew give it a chance and to watch it with Sloane. And for you to watch it, whether with your wife or by yourself, I think you would really enjoy it. It's truly a masterpiece.
Yeah, I love um I love the feel of it, and like I enjoyed thoroughly the first several seasons of um Downton Abbey, right? So like I understand what Julian Fellows can do, so that excites me a lot. I also
Hmm.
did not realize, and I think I did see this before, and then forget when you were talking about the black director, I think that was Sally Richardson Whitfield,
Hmm.
who I absolutely love. She was one of the main characters on the show Eureka back in the day on the USA Network, which was definitely kind of silly and fun. Um, but she's amazing. Like she's another one of those people that I feel like I fell in love with because of this thing, and then she disappeared. Like she didn't really do a ton after that, or at least didn't feel like she did a ton after that. Um, but she's great. Like I really am a big fan of Sally Richardson Wheatfield. So to see her, or Whitfield, not Wheatfield, to see her directing and help produce this and make this, um, is a big deal for me. Definitely a lot of reasons for me to want to watch this.
Yeah,
So,
my mom wasn't kidding. I was, really because I really got her into White Lotus, and then we would watch a little bit together. And then she said, Lauren, you've got to watch this. You've got to watch The Gilded Age. It's fantastic. And I think shows like this are really going to take over for soap operas essentially over time because these are the type of dramas that people are interested in, and it's not like you have to dedicate for years and years and years. I mean, this is our the third season. Season four will figure come out summer, maybe fall of 2026, but they weren't sure, and the way that they ended it could have been like an ending or could lead to more. Definitely excited to see where they go with this since they're getting creative with because it doesn't follow like the full story of the Vanderbilts, to be clear. They
mhm.
definitely weave in different stories from that time and they use different names for people. They even showcase homosexuality with one of the Van Ryn, the son of Agnes Van Ryn. He's gay, and you learn from like one of the first episodes that he is in a romantic relationship with John Adams, who's like the grandson or great grandson of the president, John Adams, who's living in New York, and they have like a secret relationship. And even though this is going on, he also is pursuing women, knowing that like at that time that wasn't acceptable. People
Mhm.
couldn't, live a life like that.
Yeah, it looks pretty awesome. I just saw something too that I just this also because you have the relationship between, rich white people and the black community. It reminds me of Ragtime too, which is
Hmm.
set just a little further in the future than this. Ragtime is literally the year 1900. Like it's the turning of the page into the new century is when
Right.
Ragtime takes place. And so that show is heavily built on the relationship between um, the rich white community in the New York area, the black community, who were definitely poor and often servants and things like that, but not slaves anymore, right? Like we weren't slaves anymore, but they
Right.
are servants and working class for the rich white people. And then you had in ragtime, you also have the Jewish immigrant community coming over from Eastern Europe at that time.
Yeah.
And so this sounds like this is almost like a mashup of eras where you're going to lead into ragtime and you're going to lead into Downton Abbey over in the UK, but this is it seems like a little more vibrant than Downton Abbey, which it feels like and it's probably a difference between two cultures too, but Downton Abbey visually was beautiful, but it was like color wise was a little duller. Like it had sort of a
Hmm.
very proper British feel to it, which makes sense
Right.
because it was filmed in the UK and all of that. The US has always been about flash and vibrance and all that. So, um, just looking at the trailers and stuff, you kind of get that feeling from this that it is
Yep.
that's sort of over the top, but you can see how it's still the same creator, just looking at two different worlds, basically.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It's fantastic, and they really thought about this. And my mom, and I think this is something that's worth bringing up here. Gillian Fellows' drama casted actors in total between all the actors in all three seasons, they share 23 Tony Awards.
Jeez.
So he really got some heavy hitters when it comes to just talent. And the most being Audra McDonald's, no shock there, right? She has six Tonys under her belt, but then they go through
And she was in
every single
ragtime.
person. She was in Ragtime, right? And then they've got Nathan Lane. Oh yeah, Nathan Lane
Nathan
has
Lane.
he's in all three seasons. He's the guy who gives the approval and is the social. He writes about what's going on in society and what people should follow. Think of him as like the social media expert or just
Mm.
like content person. That was him or his character during the Gilded Age. And he's like a Southern bumpkin who takes an interest in this and people listen to what he has to say. But yeah, he's on there. Cynthia Nixon has, it says two trophies with two wins. So like just different awards. Okay. And it even says for like Emmy Awards. So they really knocked it out of the park in terms of just getting people that have true accolades in acting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
even so, Laura Benanti is an actress that I love. She's been in a few
Yep.
things I've seen. I didn't realize she's a Tony winner, Tony nominee.
Hmm.
But I like I adore her. Felicia Rashad's in this. Like, I mean,
Yep.
you've
She's in
got
season
names on
three.
names that pop up in here for sure. So
100%. Yeah. And I'm going through, yeah, Douglas, and they mentioned the Scarlet Pimpernel is on here. Someone from, oh, I didn't realize he was in Hadestown. What? Okay, at least noms. It shouldn't say like wins, but noms,
mhm,
like people
mhm.
that are nominated for things.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, it's insane how well they have this stuff. But
yeah.
yeah,
Robert Shaw Leonard from House. Like, yeah, you can go through this. This is like a who's who of just great
hmm
actors.
yeah,
Um,
highly recommend.
yeah, yeah. The more I look at it, the more I feel like I have to I have to check it out.
You have to,
Um,
and I mean, I tell you and Andrew, I recommend things, but this is truly a gem, something so special. I haven't seen something that I can understand why my mom was so, jovial and just excited about this. It brings a smile to your face. It showcases so much of the past while just giving us satisfaction in knowing about our history in the present.
yeah, yeah. I think, and I think that's what one of the things that Downton Abbey did too is that it wasn't necessarily a history lesson, but as you watch the film or as you watch the
Mhm.
show, the world is happening around it. So you hear about these events. Like I said, the first episode started with the sinking of the Titanic, and so they lost people they knew, and it was a disaster that
Right.
sort of shook the world at the time. And then you start building towards, World War One and things like that in Downton Abbey, and
Yeah.
this will have other events in it that they build around. So yeah, it's very very cool.
it's cool. It's just something that's so engaging in the plots and the even the tension between the old money, new money, the accepting of what's going on with the new money. Because at the end of the day, the Russells, they have so much money and they're on the rise. And at first, people are not accepting of them, and they make people get to know them and to want to attend their balls. I mean, from the first couple episodes where no one wanted to engage with them and almost like turn away from Mrs. Russell to I have to be on Mrs. Russell's list because that's the sociable, popular thing to do. And Mrs. Russell, it's great too because you meet characters in both like the Russell home and in the Van Ryan home that are very much so looking to make change and to be a lot of like female empowerment in this film. Early feminists too that want to take part and really contribute to society. The Van Ryan home, they bring in Peggy Scott, and at a time where there's a lot of, racism in America, and
Hmm.
they treat her with so much love and grace and kindness and respect, which in many cases, and it's referenced like it's very unheard of for someone to showcase us. And they said, well, these are part of our Christian values and how we were raised to be inclusive. And then you see like different scenarios where there is racism and people are not as accepting. Bertha Russell, who's from the Russells, like she wants to include divorced women and people that have been excluded for one reason or another to balls and to say, you know what, times are changed and we got to adapt with the times.
Yeah.
So it showcases powerful men, but also some very powerful women. I mean, the headliner is Carrie Coon. She is the front and center first name that comes up in the credits and in the like at the beginning when they go through the cast.
Cool. Yeah, I think I don't
You
know
have
when I'm
to.
going to start watching it, but I'll start watching it pretty soon here. I don't, for whatever reason, my HBO, I think we have HBO through Apple, and so I don't have an actual login for it, so I can only watch it on my Apple TV, which is the
Hmm.
only thing that'll make it harder for me to watch.
Yeah.
Um,
And watch that on a big screen if you can too, because this is
yeah,
just so it's gorgeous.
yeah, yeah. I'm excited for it. So cool. Yeah, I'll definitely check that one out. And then I will close the show on a quick review. The first episode of Peacemaker came out over on HBO.
Oh, okay.
Apparently, Peacemaker coming out this week is the reason that they rushed Superman to digital. So you can actually, Superman came out on digital to purchase last week, which of course I did. Um, but because this is in the same universe, um, they wanted to make sure that people had the opportunity to watch it because some things that happen in the movie are referenced in the show. The interesting thing is that when James Gunn made the first season of Peacemaker, he was not in charge of DC. He wasn't involved really. He made this show for fun, but they weren't sure where it tied in. And as a matter of fact, when the original season of Peacemaker ended, the last thing you see is the Justice League show up, and you've got an outline of Henry Cavill Superman. Um, Aquaman shows up. Jason Momoa's Aquaman shows up. It's supposed to be Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman. Like all these characters from the Zack Snyder universe were there at the end. Well, they took a few years off. James Gunn got in charge of DC, makes Superman, decides that he's going to keep his own show in the universe, but make some changes. And so what they do that is a ton of fun and probably pisses some people off, and I don't have a problem with that, is that in the very beginning they go through the what happened last season, right? And they don't change most of that. There is a line where instead of in the original season they reference the Justice League. As they're showing what happened in last season, she says Justice Gang, which is what they were called in Superman. And then you get to the end of what was the first season, and now instead of seeing the Zack Snyder silhouettes, you see the silhouette of Mr. Terrific come down. You see the David Corn silhouette Superman come down. You see Hawk Girl, and you see Nathan Fillion's Guy Gardner, and they even have some jokes in there about that. And then the series starts, and it really does kind of pick up from where season one left off. So in season one, we found out his dad was sort of a white supremacist. He was a total dick, and so at some point during that season, he ends up killing his own dad because his dad's just a bad guy. And Peacemaker is very much a John Cena character where he's over the top and funny and a little stupid. Like John Cena plays that character perfectly. Always. Like anytime he plays a doofy funny guy, he's fantastic. I think it's like the role that he was made for. Um and so he's hilarious in this, but he's kind of left on the outs because he helped save the world in Peacemaker season one, but nobody's really given him credit for it. So he can't find a gig as a real superhero, which is what he wants to be. One of the early gags in the show is that he goes to basically audition for the Justice Gang. So we see James Gunn's brother, um, Gunn. I can't remember his last name right now, or his first name right now, but his brother replaced Maxwell Lord for just a second in Superman, and he's going to be, a major character through DC. And then Hawk Girl and Guy Gardner are there, and he basically bombs this interview to become a superhero, which infuriates him. He leaves, and decides that he's going to have a huge pity party for himself. Um, Drinks a lot, does finds a big bag of cocaine, does some drugs, and all of a sudden, his house is just a giant orgy, which they do not shy away from. There are every body part imaginable on screen. There's a lot of sex in the scene, like it's way over the top, but at the same time, like it serves to show that even with all this going on, he's not enjoying himself. Like he's not having fun. It's just like this thing happening around him that he was hoping would give him, some sort of escape, and he can't. So he goes to this closet that his dad has, and he puts in a code, and it opens up to a pocket dimension that's kind of like what we saw in Superman, where they kind of trapped Superman midway through the movie. But this one is definitely more stable. And what it is, it's where his dad had originally kept all of his bad guy stuff. But what we find out is that because this is this little pocket dimension, there's other doors. And he opens a door and walks in, and he finds out that it's his family in a different universe, basically. But his dad is a good guy. His brother is still alive. And most importantly, Peacemaker, as Peacemaker, is loved by everybody. So now he's like, well, I can go live this life instead of living this shitty life that I have back here. But the downside is that Peacemaker in that universe is still alive. So when he goes there, he spends some time with his dad and his brother, and it's this moment where he just feels like this is what's missing from his life. And as he's about to leave, the Peacemaker from that universe shows up, and they fight, end up in the alternate, or not in the alternate, but in that little pocket dimension, and he accidentally kills the Peacemaker from that universe. So now he's got a decision to make. He can go basically live this guy's life and live the life that he thinks he wants, or go back to the world that he's from and try to make it there. So that's kind of where the first episode ends. But it's very much Peacemaker. It's all over the top. He's a lovable idiot, who is a total asshole. Like Peacemaker's a dick. Like he sucks. He is definitely like not Superman, right? Like he's not a good hero. He will kill people. He'll do all the bad stuff. But in the name of there's a line. He's like I'll kill anybody that I have to make sure that to bring about peace, right? And you're like, well, that's the opposite of peace. Um, but it's funny and it's over the top, and I think judging by this first episode, it will arguably be a little more over the top than even the first season. And there's a long way to go. I'm sure it's probably 8 to 10 episodes long, but it's just fun. I think it's a good setup episode for what's coming next. We get to see Robert Patrick again, which is always nice to see him back. His brother is played by, I think David Denman is his name. He was in The Office. He was Pam's first boyfriend in The Office. Um, And then the girl, I always forget her name, but she played Tasty in Orange is the New Black. She's one of the main characters. And then one of the other main characters is James Gunn's real life wife,
Mm,
Jennifer Holland, I think her name is. But it's just it's a fun show. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch and see it go. So if you enjoyed the first season of Peacemaker, and if you're a James Gunn kind of over the top stuff kind of fan, I think you'll really enjoy it. So if that's your bag, go check it out. But I don't
nice.
have anything else for this week. Um, Next week, I don't know what's coming out. I feel like there's something coming out, so I'll find some stuff. Andrew will be back again, so I'm sure we'll talk about Alien Earth a little bit.
Hmm.
Um, I started watching Ozark finally, like I'm like 6 years behind the rest of the world. But I finished the first season of that, so maybe by next week I'll finish the second season so I can talk a little bit about that. I picked up a show on Apple TV called Invasion that just came back for its third season.
Oh, nice.
So I'll have that to talk about a little bit. Um, and then we'll see from there. I know more stuff is coming, always is, and we'll see. I don't know. Do you have any plans for anything to watch in the next week?
I do. I'm going to see the movie Eden, which is
Oh
a
yeah, yeah, yeah.
based on a true story.
Hmm.
That is going to be on Tuesday, and then the plan, as long as they're feeling up to it, I will go see The Roses next Saturday night with my
Ooh,
parents. I
yeah.
know,
I'm
which
very
I'm really
curious
excited
about
about.
that one. Yeah,
Yeah, so that
yeah.
should be good. Yeah, Eden's with Jude Law and Sydney Sweeney. Vanessa Kirby is in it too, it looks like.
Hmm. And
Daniel Bruhl,
one
Anna de
other actress
Armas.
too. Yeah, Anna de Armas. That's right.
Yeah, it looks good. It's based on a true story, and I guess they take them to the Galapagos.
Yeah, the Galapagos Islands. Yeah.
Yeah, Galapagos, excuse me. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. But yeah, it's definitely I think somewhat of it. I mean, it's based on a true story, but there's a lot of violence and these people are, I guess, initially trying to establish. Oh, Ron Howard directs this.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah. It looks really dark for for Ron
Yeah,
Howard.
I think so too, but we'll see how it goes. I know it's
Yeah.
been out for at least a week or two.
It's been out for a little bit. I haven't heard much about it, but it definitely
Yeah,
looked interesting. I don't know what the critics felt about it. Um,
not great.
you
But I
know,
will determine
that's
my own
71%
thing.
from the audience, but
Yeah,
55% from critics.
55. Yeah, no, not
Makes me
great.
wonder if it's based on a book.
I
Well,
no,
it's
it
okay.
is. Well,
And
it's
it's
based on a
based
true
on
story.
which the critics always get pissy about.
Right.
But yeah, I'm certainly curious about it. It's got a really good cast. Daniel Bruhl,
Does.
I've loved Daniel Bruhl. If you want to see something that he's in that's really great but a little dark, um, it's called The Alienist. It was on, it wasn't FX, it was on something else, but you can find it on streaming.
Hmm.
It's Daniel Bruhl, Dakota Fanning, and Luke Evans.
Okay.
And it's they call it The Alienist. He's basically the one of the first people that was researching serial killers back in the
Mm.
late 1800s, early 1900s. Fantastic show. Also takes place in New York, where I think everything takes place these days. Um, but fantastic show. It should have, I think it got two seasons. It should have got a third, but didn't for some reason. But yeah, I love Daniel Bruhl. Like, yeah, the cast for Eden is fantastic. And to see Ron Howard's name on it definitely makes it interesting.
Yeah. So we'll see how that is. And then, of course, the roses is I've been
Yeah.
waiting for this and I'm excited to see this with my parents. I'm purposely like telling all my friends, no, I can't see that with you. I have to see that with my parents. So yeah. And I think the Gilded Age like drained my battery for a few weeks when it comes to like series because I think I even told you, Kevin, like a week or two, I was like, oh, like review it next week. I couldn't help myself. I had to
Yeah.
finish it all. I finished it all yesterday, I think. Yeah, I saw the last episode. My mom explained the characters, and then I was like, all right, I gotta watch this from start to finish. And it was great. And I was talking to a coworker about it, and she was raving about everyone that I know watches it or has watched it, raves about they have their own podcast. It's it's a thing.
HBO
It's
is really good about that. What was I just watching on HBO? Oh, maybe it was just Peacemaker, but I know they
Hmm.
did it with The Last of Us. They
All
did
the
it.
extras and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and they do a really good job of putting podcasts out there and review, talking about the shows as they make them. So you can usually
Yep.
catch whatever you're watching, and then like the next day there's a podcast episode about
The
the show.
show.
So
Yeah. No, this show is it's so good. I definitely give it well, I think you'll like it. Andrew, I feel like I'm like, Sony, please just join him.
just
But I
make him
think
do it.
but Andrew will appreciate the the conflicts in class and just the many themes that I think are really important that he will oftentimes like find interesting in things that he enjoys watching. I think he'll like that
Yeah, it'll
as well.
definitely like from his angle, it's like the personality breakdown of people that I think.
Oh, he would love this from the, and also he likes things with a lot of characters. This is
Mhm.
the perfect show for that. He would really enjoy it. Yeah, and you get to see just how some of these characters really evolve from season one to season three, particularly Bertha Russell and how she was, new to the block and new to New York City high life and how she's really able to build up her reputation and in society and just yeah, I definitely think it's more of a show for women, but I think a lot of men that appreciate history and different themes of again, wealth, race, even technology to some degree you see how they adapt and appropriate or even just how everyday people who didn't grow up with money are able to accelerate in life and be able to and I don't want to give it away, but there's one character in particular who starts off as the help and then come the end of like season three, he's worth as much as some of the people on 61st Street after able to like spread his wings and advance an idea that he has into something greater that ends up working in his favor financially. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I'll
You
definitely
got
have
to
to
see
get to
it.
it. Yeah.
You have to see it.
Yeah, like I said, I've got it. The only downside is I have to watch it on my TV, which is great. I got a big ass TV, so like I said, watch it on a big screen. My TV is 80 inches, so it doesn't get a lot bigger than that. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, I definitely have to watch it there.
I don't know if your sons would like it, but maybe your wife would like it. I think you definitely would like it, and you respect and understand like the craftsmanship and the
Mhm.
talent behind the cast.
Yeah, yeah, I love the cast. I think it's awesome. So cool. All right. Well, then with that, I will say thank you to everybody for watching. Thank you for listening. Is where I was going. Thank you for
Yeah,
watching. Thank you for
listening.
listening. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time.